episode was absolutely insane. It had literally everything. It had a really awesome fight to start with, and then it had a bunch of really cool and exciting information that we're going to get to see pay off, I imagine, eventually in the future. We got a bunch of new character reveals and plot points, and a bunch of really interesting things happened. And I'm going to go through it step by step, and we're just going to talk about it because that was awesome. This was one of my favorite episodes of One Piece so far, and so exciting. I mean, first things first, we need to talk about Luffy versus Bellamy, because that went even better than I expected. Like, that was the best and most emphatic punch I think I've ever seen. Like, the way Luffy just landed that punch on him after he was springing everywhere and talking everything about, you're just a dream chaser, you'll never amount to nothing, sort of just saying people like him should be ashamed to be pirates. And then Luffy, with one punch, just decks him, and he absolutely destroys him, caves his face in, essentially. He's got blood all on his fist, and Bellamy pirates are just looking at him like, what the fuck have we done here? Luffy was on demon time in this episode for sure. And one of my favorite parts about this was after he punched him, and it was so insanely satisfying to see. One of the Bellamy pirates said to Luffy, "Where are you going?" And with Bellamy's blood still on his fist, he pointed and said, "The sky." And I just think there was something so poetic about that. This guy, Bellamy, who was all against people having dreams and, all of that sort of aspect of being a pirate and existing, living towards something, some sort of dream, and having goals and ambitions and things like that. And he has the blood of him on his hands as he points to this thing that we don't even know if it exists yet, but this thing that's like a dream right now for the Straw Hats to get to. I just think that was something really, poetic and great about that. But the punch itself was great. I think the way this fight was handled was literally perfect. When Luffy has something to fight for, like he did in this episode, he is a scary, scary individual. Secondly, we got to see the world government, I believe for the first time, all having a meeting talking about Crocodile's defeat and the fact that the balance of the three powers is now being disturbed, and they need to find a replacement for him, because obviously the seven warlords are a huge part of the three major powers, and with him being gone, they need to find some sort of replacement. So they call a meeting with a bunch of the seven warlords, or the six warlords now. Only a few of them show up though. We have a guy called Doflamingo and a guy called Kuma. We don't really know a lot about them. All I know is Doflamingo walks very funny. And eventually Mihawk shows up as well, who has a very keen interest now in Zoro and Luffy, knowing that, they grew from the last time that they met and they defeated Crocodile. So he's obviously wants to keep an eye on them, sort of thing. But finally getting to see this government after everything we've seen about them, and a few more of the seven warlords of the sea after everything we've heard about them too, is just super, super exciting. But this meeting wasn't just about Crocodile's defeat. It was also about the prevention of the red-haired pirate and Whitebeard meeting. Red-haired pirate obviously being Shanks. And if these two meet, it could be really dangerous. It could potentially affect the world by the way it seems. So they need to stop that from happening. Potentially. I don't know what exactly the reason is specifically, but for some reason the government are terrified of these two people meeting, and Shanks is now on his way to meet Whitebeard, and we actually got to see Whitebeard for the first time, the strongest pirate in the world. It even says that on his title when he shows up, and he's giant, by the way. He's like the biggest pirate, biggest person we've seen by far. The dude looks terrifying, although he's hooked up to a bunch of like drips, like IVs, which is a bit odd. I don't really know what that's all about. It looks like he's just been in a battle maybe or something, but I'm not too sure. But he's really intimidating, and him meeting up with Shanks, if that's to happen, apparently it's going to cause some sort of chaos. It's going to be really dangerous for the world potentially. So, the government wants to stop that from happening. But like I said, that's super intriguing as well. Like, what's that all about? Why do they want to meet each other? What's the meeting all like actually going to be about? I don't know, it's just, a lot of really fun stuff. On top of all that craziness, another really creepy person joins the world government meeting called Lafitte. He just sort of sneaks up on everybody, and he claims that he wants his captain to be the next of the seven warlords. He wants him to replace Crocodile, and it turns out that is Blackbeard, the notorious Blackbeard we've heard a lot about since Drum Island, I think it was. And it turns out that Blackbeard is actually that man that Luffy met a few episodes ago in that bar, that told Luffy that pirates should always chase their dreams. The person that I thought was actually quite, a wholesome person, potentially like somebody that would actually drive Luffy forward after what happened with Bellamy. But turns out he's the notorious Blackbeard, and he's just looking for somebody to hunt pretty much at the moment. He's trying to up his rank, it's what it seems like, in the world. And he's looking for somebody with 100 million berry bounty. And that happens to be Luffy. So not only is the world government after Luffy for what he did to Crocodile, now he's got Blackbeard after him as well. So that's terrifying. And Blackbeard and his crew seem really scary. What Blackbeard did to the member of the Bellamy Pirates was actually disgusting. Like, actual, like, disrespect. And Yeah, wow. Also, not to mention the fact that Blackbeard is called Marshall D. Teach, another member of the D family, I guess. You know, you have Marshall D. Teach, Monkey D. Luffy, Gold D. Roger. Like, what is going on with this family, man? Like, why do they have such, like, insanely strong people in the family? Like, such notorious. Is it like the most notorious bloodline in the world, and Luffy just happens to be a part of it? I don't know. I thought that was super interesting, but somehow Blackbeard and Luffy are connected in some sort of way. And Goldie Roger, there's crazy. This episode was so crazy, and there's so much exciting stuff happening, and so much like plot, so many plot points that all sort of developed in this, and so many more potential for the future for these characters to like conflicts and just yeah, I'm speechless, man. This episode was so great, including the fight with Luffy and Bellamy, which I thought was fantastic as well and so well handled. I love this episode so much, and I'm so excited for the future of this show and all of these characters, and to learn more about all of them, and to see what exactly happens with the world government and Blackbeard and Luffy and Whitebeard and Shanks and Ace and all of that. I'm so excited, and Mihawk. But yeah, this episode, this show just keeps getting better, and I can't wait to see what happens next.